Hey, this is my Origins 2017 recap video. First off, I apologize if the audio or video quality isn't up to par with my normal videos. I'm in the process of moving. Obviously, the game shelves have been rearranged, reset up. I'm in a whole new house, and my recorder and everything are still packed in boxes that I can't find because it's been very hectic because literally we bought a house and the next day I left for Origins. So, still catching up. Also, this is why this video didn't come out last week. Just been trying to get everything out of the way. So let's get right into kind of my recaps. I'm going to talk about Origins in general, and then I'm going to talk about the games, the new games that I played and my thoughts on them. Then I'm going to talk about my games that I pitched. So if I can figure out, YouTube switched out their annotations, so I can figure out a way for you to click to those. So you can skip around. I'll put those up on screen. If not, I'll timestamp them in the description below if you just want to see like what I thought of games or my games or whatever. Okay, let's get into it. So, this was my second Origins. I am a huge fan of Origins. Origins as a convention is pretty big. It's, I think, competing with UK Games Expo for what's the third biggest convention after SN and Gen Con. I think they had like 50-ish thousand people through the doors this year. I don't remember. It's the biggest year ever. I think they increased by like 12% or something. So, some good growth there, but it's also still small enough that you can play games. So, it's great because most of the publishers are there selling games. There's some games being released, not nearly as many as Gen Con or Essen, but some brand new games. And you can buy them from most of the publishers, and it's a really good convention to like actually get to sit down and demo games because it's not nearly as hectic as Gen Con. Also, there's not really, it's weird, there's not really open gaming area, but there's a whole lot of gaming area that nobody really polices that hard, so you can usually sit down and play a game somewhere without anybody hassling you too much. So you do get to play more games than, or it's easier to play more games than it is at the comparative like Gen Con or something like that. So if you've been to something like Dice Tower Con or BGG Con and you've been to something like Gen Con, it's kind of halfway between both of those and the best of both worlds. If I was only able to go to one convention a year, it might be Origins just because I get a little bit of everything, where other cons specialize in certain things and do them better than Origins does. Origins kind of does everything better than anyone else. So, yeah, another good con. Yeah, let's just get into the games I played. So, right off the bat, if you saw my top 10 most anticipated games video that came out a couple weeks back, if I can figure out annotations, I'll link here. Otherwise, it'll be in the description below. You know that I had quite a few games that I was interested to check out. Unfortunately, due to a lot of meetings and scheduling and things like that I'll get into later when I talk about my prototypes and pitching, I only got around to playing 4 new games that came out this year. I played a ton of prototypes, but only 4 new games. So I'll get right into those. First up was, I think this was my #1 most anticipated, is Barren Park, or Barren Park, whatever. It's by Phil Walker-Harding, who did Sushi Go and Cacao, and a bunch of really solid games that I'm a big fan of. This is a polyomino tile-laying game that is like the patchwork-style Tetris-shaped tiles that is incredibly simple to learn, pretty fast to play, plays in about 30 minutes, has some strategic depth, but not insane or anything like that. And I absolutely loved it. I love lightweight Euros. Phil Walker-Harding is one of my favorite designers because of that. And this one really, really worked well for me. Everybody was saying that this was the Cottage Garden killer, which normally I'm not super on board with, like, this is the X killer, you know, because a lot of games usually have their own merits, but this is the Cottage Garden killer. I own Cottage Garden, and I'm going to be selling it off as soon as I can, because Cottage Garden did some things pretty well. I was overall not as enamored with it as I wanted to be, having loved Patchwork, and Barren Park hits every single part of my brain that enjoys Cottage Garden without the parts of my brain that don't enjoy Cottage Garden. So that's going to be in my collection for years. No question, it's going to be in my top 10 games of the year. Great job, Phil Walker-Harding. Exciting stuff there. Up next, what was another one? I played Bonanza Duel, or The Duel, Bonanza the Duel, I don't remember. It's basically the new 2-player version of Bonanza. Bonanza is one of my all-time favorite games. It's an incredibly brilliant game where you're just doing slight set collection, but you're limited in so many ways. You can't rearrange your hand. You can only have 2 or 3 bean fields. All sorts of stuff. You're collecting beans, by the way. Otherwise, that sounded like an insane thing to say you can only have 2 bean fields. But yeah, you're collecting beans. I don't know why. So I love that game, but it really shines at kind of higher player counts. I think it goes up to 7 players. And you couldn't really do it very well with 2 players. There was, I think, modified rules for it. I don't know. I never tried them. So this is a specific 2-player Bonanza. I was really excited to try it out. I tried it out with Travis Hill of Low Player Count Podcast, so in good hands for low player count games there. And we either played it wrong, which it was one of those games that constantly I was saying, it has to be that we're playing this wrong. There's no way this is how to play this game. And we kept looking through the rule book and couldn't find out how, if we were playing it wrong. So maybe we were playing it wrong, but if we were, that rule book is not good enough because we consulted it like 20 times. Travis Hill is a rule book editor, so like, again, we should have been able to get it right. Or we weren't, in which case it didn't feel like Bonanza, where you have these cards that are like goal cards that are pretty cool, where it's saying like, you get extra points if it's like 3 beans of a color than 2 beans of a color, because you're not limited in the same way as you are with normal Bonanza. You can plant multiple different types of beans in the same field as long as they go from rarest to least rare, basically as long as it's a higher number lower. So you're trying to build these patterns, and if your opponent does it, then you can turn them in. And those cards are worth an insane amount of points according to the rules, where if you've played Bonanza, 1 gold is a decent amount of points. You don't make a ton of points. And those cards are all worth more than 1 gold, and we were just scoring them like crazy. So final scores were in like the 40s or 50s, which is really weird for that game. It does have a really, really good kind of bluff trade mechanic in it, where you like have all the beans in a row, all the different cards, and you like push one forward and you're like offering, I'll give you this bean. And if they refuse, then they have to offer you a different bean. But you can only use one of those beans once. So then maybe they're bluffing and they don't actually have that bean, expecting that you'll say no. But then if you say yes, they have to give you a gold. So that was cool. I didn't hate the game. It just didn't feel like Bonanza, and it felt really close. So I don't know. Maybe we were playing it wrong. So I don't know. I'm iffy on that one. Up next, we played Word Slam, which is a new game that if you've played Concept, is basically Concept, the word game. I initially steered away from this, even though people were recommending it to me because I don't like word games. Luckily, it has nothing to do with like spelling or constructing words. It is just using words on cards to get people to guess something. So if it's, you know, sometimes there's pop culture stuff, so let's say it's Wayne's World. You have all these different cards that are color-coded by like nouns, adjectives, verbs, modifying words, things like that. And you pick the cards if you're the person that's trying to get people to guess the word, and your team has to guess. So maybe there's like guitar and movie and, I don't know, comedy. I don't know if those words are in it. They probably aren't. That's probably too easy. And then people are guessing, and theoretically they'd guess Wayne's World. A cool twist is that the other team, it's teams that you play simultaneously, is trying to guess the same word, but you can't see what cards are given to them, but you can hear what they're guessing, so sometimes that'll take you down a path. It's really smart, it's really good, it's a great con game, because it fits a bunch of people can walk in, join, they can leave, so yeah, pretty solid game there. And then the last game, new game that I played, I didn't even know they were going to have there, I've been waiting for this one forever, is Sentient by Alex Cavern. I played the prototype for this at Unpub 2 years ago, and I have been anxiously awaiting Renegade's release of it ever since. I love this game. It is an incredibly simple game, but it is very puzzly, and it has a lot of kind of like crunchy depth to it, and is very brain-burny. Sorry for my dog barking. It's very brain-burny, so if you don't like puzzly games or like feeling like you're right at the edge of your brain capacity, I wouldn't recommend this game for you. That being said, I absolutely love this game. It will no question be one of my top 10 games of the year. The components are absolutely beautiful. They did an incredible job with the dice. They did an incredible job with every part of it. So yeah, highly recommend that game if you're into simple mechanics, but kind of like pretty hardcore strategic depth with the thing. Yeah, I love it. It's great. Okay. Because I didn't get to play a ton of games, well, the reason I didn't get to play a ton of games is because I was pitching a bunch of my prototypes to a bunch of different publishers. I set up a bunch of meetings. I wound up getting way more meetings, and I set them up really poorly. I should have just put them all in one day, but I stretched them out, so like at any given point, I was 2 hours away from having to like run to another meeting, so I never felt super comfortable like sitting down to play games for very long because I always had somewhere else to be in a little while. So yeah, I'm going to talk about that now, so if you don't have any interest in that, go go ahead and click out of this video, because whatever. I don't know if you leave. Actually, I could know if you leave. There's weird statistics. I don't look at them. I don't care. Okay. So I had 3 games that I was pitching, and then a game that I was hired to make that I needed to show them, and my game Favelas that has been signed and is on its way through production. So I'm going to talk about each one of those one at a time. So first off, I was pitching Darwinauts, which if you follow me, this used to be Galapagos Expeditions. It used to be signed a while back. I got it back in a publisher getting bought by another publisher, whatever. So I kind of like dusted that one off the shelf and was showing people again. And that was nice. It was interesting to go through the pitch process on that one again, because I had already done that. But had several people pretty interested. I'm pretty sure I'm in talks with the publisher, so I bet that one finds a home, which would be really exciting, because that was kind of my first real foray into game design that I got really excited about. So that'd be great if that one found a home. Up next is Tomb Team, which is a very simple drafting game that I've had for a long time. I was thinking about self-publishing for a while, but wound up deciding to sign it with a publisher. So I only pitched that to one publisher because I really, really want them to pick it up. And they liked it a lot. They took a copy back with them. So we'll see if that works, which is great. Up next is Holy Rollers, which is the roll and write game that I designed for the Gin Can't roll and write competition that's going on right now. And I wound up really, really liking it, so I threw it in my bag, and I was like, why not? I'll pitch this. And it went over really well, and I had interest from multiple publishers, so I'm pretty confident that one's going to hit shelves at some point in the future, which is cool. I'm also still going to submit it to the Gin Can't Roll and Write contest, so hopefully it does all right there. And if it does, then I think you get to play it, which is cool. Then I had some meetings checking on Favelas, which is the game that I signed with WizKids back after Unpub, and we are on track for an SN release, which is a really fast course. So if everything goes according to plan, that should be out at SN this year, which is really exciting. The artwork's amazing. I'm so happy with how that whole process is going, and it's also been really stressful and a big sprint, because normally it takes like a year or 2 to get games to shelves, and we're doing it all in like, I don't know, 6 or 8 months or something like that. So that went well. That's going well. I also got hired by a company to design on a license that I can't talk about yet, but it's a really cool license. I'm super excited about it. It's a license that means a whole lot to me. So I was ecstatic when they asked if I wanted to design that game. And with that ecstasy came going like, oh no, I've never designed a game theme first, and there's all sorts of these limitations that I'm just not used to having at the front end of a game. And so I kind of freaked out a little bit, but I wound up designing something I was really happy with. I showed it to them. They were really happy with, so that was a huge relief. Obviously very exciting that that is going well. I don't know, I don't have any idea when they're going to announce it. I can't talk at all about it because it's a license that hasn't been announced or anything like that. But someday that's going to come out, and it's really cool, and I'm really excited about it, so I hope you dig it too. So yeah, everything went great for me. I had tons of meetings and it was really busy. I came out with a couple people that I'm going to be co-designing games with. When I kind of decompressed at the airport on my way back, I made a like to-do list and realized that I have 9 games currently at some point in production where, you know, Favelas is the farthest along, which basically my part of that's done. Now it's just like, you know, like checking to make sure everything's spelled right in the rule book and like checking out graphic design and stuff. Some of them are very early, very, very early in the stages where I'm just beginning to work on them, and some of them are kind of in the middle. But obviously 9 games is a whole lot, so I'm not going to be taking any more on until I get some of these out the door. But yeah, it was very, very cool. I had a great time. I wasn't planning on going to Gen Con this year, but now I might be going because I might need to take meetings. I'm trying to get to Essen this year. We'll see about that. I'll definitely be at BGG Con. Thank you to all of you that came up and said hi. Especially Chromus, I don't remember how to say it. Somebody that he often asks questions on the news, and I always mispronounce his Twitter handle, and he told me how it was pronounced, and I told him I'd immediately forget, and I kept my word, because I totally did. But yeah, great meeting all of you as always. If you see me at any future conventions, yeah, definitely say hi. So that was the con. That was all I'm going to do about that. I have a little thing that I'm going to tack on to the end of this instead of like a question this week, where I have to finally finalize if I'm going to be credited on my game designs as Chris Bryan, which is how I've branded all of my social media and everything. Everyone knows me as Chris Bryan, or Christopher Bryan, which I like more, but I'm not branded that way, and it's too long to have as like a Twitter handle or an email or anything like that. So I've really been going back and forth on that, and as of like right now, I think I'm going to stick with Chris Bryan. I don't know. I might go to Christopher Bryan. People are telling me to stick with Chris Bryan because that's how they know me, but I don't feel like it's that big of a leap to go to Christopher Bryan. So let me know in the comments, amongst other things about comments like ask about the games or anything like that. What do you think? Should I stick with Chris Bryan because that's everything, like this channel and everything? Or should I just go ahead and do Christopher Bryan? It doesn't really matter and everybody's going to understand anyway. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. I should be back, assuming I get everything unpacked, assuming I get everything together. You can't tell, but right outside frame on all of this is just piles of boxes and crap. I should be back to the weekly news videos starting next Wednesday. And my most anticipated games of Gen Con list is going to be right around the corner because that's coming up really fast. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. If you like this kind of content and want more of it, make sure you follow me on social media. I'm at Chris Bryan Games, not Christopher Bryan, at Chris Bryan Games on Twitter and Instagram. And yeah, I'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for tuning in is what that was supposed to be. I said thanks for tuning in at the end of that, but just know it was supposed to be tuning in. All right, see you next week.